Today is the day. Today we're going to wire up DD5 Euro 3 204. By Euro 3 I mean it's an early 204, so it has vacuum turbo and the injectors are 131, whereas Euro 4 the injectors are different and it's got electric actuator. This is still vacuum actuator. And since doing this car, this one's Euro 4, the oil pressure light didn't work when we put it in, so I had to wire that up separate. So I'm actually going to wire up the clocks with this engine today as well, so you can see RPM working. I want to get oil pressure light working here, so the loom's tidy when it goes in the car. And apparently we can't get battery light, but I'm going to try and get battery light so I can suss it out. So when I stripped this engine out of the car, I've took it right back and went right into the dash and took the dash out, so I've got full pedal wire, uncut. This is the plug that we're going to be working with today. This is the one that stays on the chassis. I'm going to show you how to de-pin that to get this running on the floor. Along with I've kept the fuel pump relay, so all I'm going to do with that is the red with the blue stripe gets a constant live. The red with the white stripe will get switched on when the main relay wakes up, and then it plugs into the rest of the car, and that'll power my fuel pump at the correct place. So this time I'm actually not going to use a battery on the floor this time. This time the fuel pump is going to work properly. I should have put 2 fuel pipes into that. And since getting this engine, I have, same I do this with every engine swap that I'm going to do. I've done brand new water pump, brand new thermostat, Mel, only use Mel stuff, no use nothing else. New belt, EGR deleted there as well. I had the manifold off, done manifold gaskets, and done every vacuum hose, deleted everything that's not used. And also, while I was under the manifold, I bought an X5 not long ago, and it had a leaky water pipe under the manifold. So I've just started adding that to the collection as well, just a £10 pipe. This guy here just sits under the manifold and it splits the water coming to the radiator on this top pipe here, and just a water pipe that goes back towards the heater matrix. It's like a tenner for this pipe. It's like no expensive, it's worth doing while you're under there. Save drama later, because my X5 had like just a wee tiny drip there, and there was no cracks or nothing like that. It was just that it was obviously on there for factory, that it needed done basically. So I've got a diagram. I sat and worked out a diagram yesterday. I sat and drew it all down on the laptop. So I'll get to that shortly, and we'll get this running on the floor. What I also forgot to mention is it's got swirl flaps delete as well. I already had swirl flap delete when I bought it, but I bought a swirl flap delete kit just to get the manifold gaskets, because apparently it's like cheaper to buy a swirl flap delete kit just to get the inlet manifold gaskets than to buy the inlet manifold gaskets on their own. So it's got that done as well. So I'm going to start with, I'm going to clean up these terminals. I always clean these terminals before I put them. I'm going to put these two together and put them to the live of the battery terminal. I'm going to clean this terminal with a bit of sandpaper. I'm going to put that to the earth battery terminal. And then round this side, this one is brown, so it clearly gets an earth as well. And I think that's pretty much it, except my fuel pump relay is going to need a constant live here. And when this relay wakes up, when we wake up this relay, it's basically going to give me a switched live that can be powered up off of this for to power my fuel pump relay, and this one's going to be fairly basic. Also, I need to put an eyelet on these three. That's 3 earths there. Put an eyelet on them and we'll get it running. And basically at the end, if you do it nice and tidy, I like tidy jobs. I'm really fussy for stuff like that. You'll end up with something like this. So this is into an E36 compact. This is 290 horse with 690 newton meters, 6-speed, 204, Euro 4, electric actuator. Thing's wild, man, honestly, wild. Class. I can't wait to put that in, because I've been 184 for the last year or something. So because this is Euro 4, the injectors are 216 on this. and it's got electric actuator. This is my mate's motor. I helped him build it. This is what kind of got me into doing 3 litre diesels as well. And he's done some of it, I've done some of it, and we've just basically built it together. And mine's has been on the road for a year, while his is just like the last 2 weeks he started using it, because it was still to get finished, because he got it painted before we went to put the engine in and stuff like that. And then he only done so much, then I needed to weld some jacking points and stuff like that, so this is where we're at. But we had it at the dyno the other week and it made like just shy of 300 horse and just shy of 700 newton meters. I took it home at the weekend. Thing's wild. I can't wait to do mine. Like, it's actual wild. Like 690 newton meters in a compact is crazy. Actual crazy. So if you do a nice tidy job, this is like the end result. Right, let's see where we go next. Let's go and set the laptop up, get a diagram up, and we'll start deep in the. There's another thing I missed in the last video, but I'm going to cover it in this one. Temperature, how to take temperature out of this engine. I'm using it for an E36, right? So the trick for us is to adapt an E36 4-pin temp sensor into the diesel. Because a diesel and any E46, it runs a 2-pin temp sensor. So you want to use the 4-pin one from an E36, but you need to work out the diagram for actually, so the ECU reads temp and so the clock read the temp. So mine's already done on this engine here. Mine's already done. I've got 2 taps into the ECU here, and I've got 2 left hanging here for to adapt into my E36 loom later. So I've been routing all the engines that I've got here, and I've got diagrams and stuff like that. So here's a 184. So your coolant signal to ECU is grey-blue, which is pin 1. Pin 2 is brown and green, which is coolant earth. Right, so all you're having to do there is, this is what I wrote down, right? So if you're changing to 4-pin, pin 3 and pin 4 of this, so pin 3, brown-red, coolant signal to ECU, would go to grey-blue, coolant signal ECU. Your grey-brown, coolant earth, ECU, and brown-green, coolant earth, ECU. If you come to do this on an E46 petrol, red-brown is coolant signal ECU, and grey-brown is coolant earth to ECU. But when you buy, if you say you put in an M54, which is basically a 3 litre petrol engine, into an E36, when that comes with the adapter loom, it comes with an extra yellow wire, which needs to go into a different ECU plug for what we deal with. It's basically a yellow wire, and it goes to, like, say, pin 24 or pin 26, and that's basically just taking, you're basically just tapping into this at the ECU side. So you have coolant signal to the ECU, a coolant signal to the clocks from the ECU. But if you do that, it depends on what you're putting in, to be fair, because in all honesty, you might need to extend pipework, because there's no way, if I'm putting this in a 36, there's no way I can use the original 46 rad or the original 46 bottle. So I use this bit here, right, but I need to cut here and add a bit of alloy in. So if you need to modify pipes, yeah, you could run a T-piece and get temp signal from there, whatever, and run an aftermarket gauge, but you want everything running factory, and you really want the temp sensor being the head. So let's take this one for instance. We've had to extend that hose there. I mean, you could put a T-piece there and you could run temp for there, but it's like, it's out with the engine. You want the temp to be read from the head, like how hot the head is. So this is like original TDS rad, original TDS bottle, hoses extended. This one at the bottom I've just had to make up like out of 2 bits of hose, and the factory TDS bottle has to be moved up the leg a little, or you can't get the boost pipe in there. So we just shuffle stuff about just so it fits, but it's in, it's tidy, nice and neat, so that's fine. Right, now let's go and fire up the laptop and get some pins done. Right, time to deep-in the ECU. Well, bad news anyway, right? I've already deep-inned it, but I'm going to show you how to take this plug apart. So first you need to lift up this tab on both sides, and that'll let you slip him out. Right, put him to the side. And then we only want to take out this part, this side, right? So you just need to get this latch out, slip him out of there, boom, push him, and that's us got these two plugs. So the rest can go to the side now. 2 seconds. We're only dealing with these two plugs. And it's like, well, black plug is pin 7 to 32, and white plug is pin 33 to 58. So I've already de-pinned this, but it's the same as the last. If you watched the last video, the pins are the same. There's a wee tab inside there. If you push that tab in and pull the wire back, that pin will come out of there. So I've made a diagram here, which I've still to finish it off a wee bit. I've done most of it. I've obviously done what I've got in my hand and stuff like that, but I want to try and get oil battery light working, so I'll maybe add that in. But this diagram, I will put a link in the description to my Google Documents, and I'll leave it on the Google Documents that anyone with a link can get the document basically. So that's me all de-pinned, basically. Go OBD wire, wake up ECU. I've left CAN. You might need to use CAN if you're using Autobox. I've never used Autobox, so I'm not interested in that, like, but I'll show you. So in the black plug you've got wake up ECU, OBD wire, 2 pedal wires, and the fuel pump trigger. And then on the other one you've got 2 for CAN, 1 for RPM, 1 for oil, and 4 for pedal. That's it. As simple as that. Right, so I'm going to put this plug back together, which you really, again, you can't put these back in the wrong way. It's like so straightforward. See the guy sticking it in the wrong way. And what you need to do though is make sure that they're all the way flush before you put this clip back in. And then he goes back in there. That way. Till it's flush with here. And then you just slot him back in. Boom. So now I need to go and put my eyelets on my earth so we can get this fired up. And then we're ready to go to engine and power up, get a turnover, make sure fuel pump primes, blah blah blah, get running, and then I'm going to, so I'll go and put eyelets on these now, and I'll go and wire up next to the engine and try and get the battery light to function, because that seems to be a hard point of doing this. Make sure my connections are correct, and then we'll get running on 4 and go to the next point. So back to the engine, I'll show you how I've got wired just now. I've got a battery here. I just extended this earth so the engine's earthed. I've put a live up to these constant lives, and I've took a constant live round my side, also an earth round my side. Come to my side, we're all plugged in. Relay for fuel pump all wired up. Pedal sitting here. So all I've done now is wake up ECU, and then the fuel pump will come on, because like I said, when you wake up the ECU and it triggers this main relay, all these fuses, it will put power back down this red and white. So I've just temporarily tapped back into this red and white now, but I will tidy this up when it's gone back in my own car. So basically, also I've just had it a quick run the other now as well, and battery light not working and oil light not working, and if I don't earth the oil light just now, I won't get RPM, but we'll just get a fire. So as soon as I touch them off of there, it's going to wake up the main relay, which then powers, it will send a switch live down here, which is going to wake up my, what do you call it, my relay for fuel pump, which has already got a constant live off of here. So listen to this. That's basically what I've done there. That's like ignition 2. Right, so fuel pump running. can hear the engine buzzes when it's got power. So now all I'm doing is touching this big fat black off of here and she'll run. Yeah, I have RPM, but if I disconnect that here, I'll lose RPM. Out the way, mate, out the way. And just take that away for it to switch it back off. Job done. So it looks like it's going to be the same as this. I'm going to have to wire up the oil pressure switch to the side, like out with the ECU, and see what happens with that. Well, I cannot work that way, but it just means tidying a bit of wiring before it goes actually in the car, because we didn't realise this oil light didn't work until the car was up and running. So there's like one thing here that I'm not happy about, because it could have been tidier, but there's like one odd wire here. It's just been last minute, took into the cab for the gear's oil pressure. Aye, so how sexy is that? So the oil pressure light does work. The thing was, it wasn't liking it because I had a separate battery and a separate earth for the oil pressure. So I've now put it all together here just now. So I've got RPM signal connected to the clocks, oil pressure for that pin for the ECU to my pin on the clocks, which I know is oil pressure. And now since it's using all the same power grid, then the oil pressure light's working. So I'm going to wake the ECU up. Boom, there's oil light. Then I'm going to fire it up. We'll get RPM and oil in one go. So I can live with that. It just means no battery light. If I was to take battery light out of it, you would need to come out of this ECU plug here, meaning you'd make the loom pretty messy. Aye, so if I was to get battery light out of it, basically there's two wires in the back of the alternator. One's blue-green and one's straight blue, but it's telling this side of the ECU plug. I'm pretty sure I could take my blue wire to it, the new, and there's a chance it'll work, a chance it wouldn't. But then when it comes to wiring this up in the car, when you go to take the engine out later, you're taking the ECU, the engine, and this side of the loom. This side's going to stay with the car. So if you want to take a wire for there and then mismatch it here for it to go through the car or that, it's just going to make it messy. So I can live with having no battery light, but I'll just run a digital voltmeter inside. I have one in my other car here, because on this 1JZ compact that I've got here, we use a 330 diesel alternator in this. So every time I fire it up, it'll be like 12 volts when you go to fire it, and then it'll run 13, 14 volts. So let's go back to the top. I just had a guy there saying, oh, look at the state of the wire and it's messy. Well, it was only messy because I had to wire up the clocks to ensure that my oil pressure light was going to work and the RPM was working fine. Because on a Euro 4 engine like this one here, once we wired up using the Housey torque loom, the oil pressure didn't work. So the oil pressure ended up being an afterthought, and I had to add one wire later, which then makes it look no tidy. Fair enough, you didn't see it, but if you knew about it in advance, then you could have tucked into the loom. So let's see. Obviously it's going to be untidy running it on the floor, right? But look what we're doing here. 6 wires for the pedal, going back there. I've left CAN ones in there, right, just to show you that's what you use if they're auto box, right? So on top of that we have like oil pressure, that's fuel pump relay, because it goes, no, it's actually RPM, fuel pump relay, and switch to wake up the ECU. And on top of that, when you get to this big 8-pin plug, you can literally D-pin all of them, and all you're using is the start. Right? And then once you switch power on to like kind of wake up the ECU with this, right? By the time this triggers and activates all these fuses, right, you actually get a power back out of this 4-pin plug. The red and white is a power out, so I've used that power out to power my fuel pump really, and that's really what it does. On top of that, your green is a switch live, and your blue-yellow is a switch for the reverse switch. These are both for reverse, so it'll feed power in. When you hit reverse switch, it'll feed the power back up that and bring your lights on. You didn't really need it. I'll use it because I've got parking sensors on my BM, but I'm just showing you, like, it's so simple. And there's always somebody out there that's going to say, oh, this is better or that's better, but go and spend £200 on a loom for what? For like 9 extended wires. These are mental, whatever. This is why I'm showing you how to do it, because a lot of people on this page are just like, how do you do this, how do you do that? And it's like, I live these engines every day, and I'd rather just help somebody get by, share some knowledge with people. I've had a guy like doing London way message me with an E36 done a swap, and it's no doing this, it's no doing that. I've asked him to show me a couple of basic wires. Next thing, he sent me a video like screaming, oh, I love you, all the rest of it. Like, that's really rewarding to me, doing this to people. Like, so let's go again, right? So we've got to wake the ECU up, which has got to trigger this relay, and you'll hear the fuel pump going, right? So hold on, the joys of working with one hand. Come on, man. Fuel pump relay. So that's him triggered, that's fuel pump working. From there, all you're doing is touching that off of live, and it's running. To stop it running, you take power away from it. This guy, take power away. But aye, there's always somebody out there that knows better, but I don't care what you know. I know enough for to get me going. This is my job. I do this every day. Like, what does it matter? Oh, I spent £200 on this loom, it's tidier. Is it tidier though? Is it really tidier? I mean, this does have that loom, but I've still had to do loom work for to fit it into this car. It's still tidy. That's a tidy job. I didn't need to justify anything. I'm like flat out doing jobs like this, and I really didn't have to justify. I also didn't have to make these videos, but I see too many people out there either not knowing what to do or just stuff like that, and I like to help people. I'll help anybody until it feels like they're a retard, and I'm just like, mate, you should be giving this to a mechanic. This is not a job for you. Like, sorry for the honesty in that, but like, that's the way I am. I'll help anybody until it feels like they're no understanding or taking on board what I'm saying. So therefore, why am I trying to get through to somebody that's like, it's like talking to the wall, mate. Take red to red, black to black, and blue to fuck. They didn't listen. But I'll try and help people as much as I can. But I'd rather just share my knowledge and pass it on to you guys, so you can do swaps yourself, nice and easy. The only thing I've no went into in this is EWS, but I've deleted the EWS on this, and I'm probably going to have to do a video on this for you later to show you how to delete EWS yourself. So make swaps easier, or I might even do a video on how to wire up EWS3. So if you have a full car, if you take the ECU, the EWS box, the transponder for the key, and the key itself, and you can wire it up as well. It's like an extra 6 or 7 wires. And then another thing that I didn't mention was OBD port. So you're going to wire up your white and purple is going to be the OBD port. So that'll go to OBD port pin 7. There's 2 earths, pin 5 and 6 on OBD port, and pin 16 is like constant live, and that's all you need. That's all you need. That'll run no problem. You'll be able to read codes off it no problem, and that's it. Doddle, mate. Well, anyway, I hope you have enjoyed. I'm sorry if the videos went on too long, but is what it is, eh?